Hello and welcome to the Hoop Collective podcast. We talk about the NBA, which we are doing on Monday night in the United States and early on Tuesday morning here in London, England. Joining me from New York City is Tim Bontemps.
Folks, I only got on here a couple minutes before we started, and this feels like it could be a legendary Windy Sleep Update pod based off the general mood before we've even begun.
I had a backbreaker of a day. I'm supposed to be having this sort of stuff in the pre-Olympic days.
We just got a really tough life, MacMahon. It's just got a really, really tough life out in the environs, out seeing famous people. He's golfing, he's doing all kinds of stuff. It's a tough life.
Joining us from Dallas, Texas is Ben MacMahon.
Howdy, partners. Listen, Wendy was trying to go about the passive Windy Sleep Update. You had to kind of blow the spot there. What time is it there, Wendy? Just go on and tell us.
10 after 2 a.m. British summer time.
Do they do what? How do they say that in London?
Do they call it summertime?
BST, British summertime.
Oh.
I did get to see the Tottenham Hotspur playing a friendly over the weekend at Queen's Park Rangers. I know that's big for our. By the way, I want to say, and this involves Jackson too. I've had a lot of folks over here come up to me at the games at the O2 Arena, where the environment for the two Team USA games was absolutely spectacular. You know, England is not known for its love of NBA basketball, and there was a lot of people from all over the world who are in London right now who are doing it, and there was a lot of German fans at tonight's game. They were chanting "Let's go Deutschland," which I was like, "Well, you're gonna speak in English or speak in German? What are we doing here?" But a lot of people have come up to me with English accents and say that they're fans of the pod or fans of stuff they see me on.
Worldwide.
And I ask them, I go, how do you do it? And they all see it on YouTube. So Jackson's hard work is paying off, and thank you for watching us on YouTube. And we're very appreciative. A lot of people, very, very nice. Nobody mentioned you, Bontemps, but
well, I'd like to say howdy blokes then.
That's more of a Australian term.
Chaps?
Chaps would be better.
Howdy. Chaps.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, but before we talk about Team USA, I mean, there was 13,000 people in the building an hour before tip, 50 minutes before tip of these two games. Steph Curry was out doing his warm-up, his warm-ups. And like, obviously that's a thing. Everybody knows about that, but I don't think he does it in front of that many people that often. And he kind of got into it. Like the people were going crazy, like they were living and dying with it. And he got so excited, he dunked before the game on Saturday night. And so in tonight's game, they opened up, there was a balcony that was closed. They had 17,000 for South Sudan and then 19,000 for Germany. There was a balcony that they had closed and they opened. Most people ever to see a basketball game in England.
So was it like when a number one seed in March Madness is getting threatened, and was there kind of that crowd jumping on the underdog bandwagon?
No, there was a fair amount of German fans, and I think people like South Sudan, but no, it was not like a 15 seed, threatening a 2 or a 16 against 1 in this case. But LeBron was awesome in these two games, and to see LeBron do that, he hadn't played in London in 12 years since the 2012 Olympics. You probably never thought you'd see LeBron live for a lot of these people, and to see him do that, I mean, just saying the atmosphere has been great. Really this whole Team USA tour, Bontemps, they set a record in Vegas, right? There's been dozens of Team USA games in Vegas.
Correct. Record for any basketball game at T-Mobile. It was around 21,000 people at the game.
Record in Abu Dhabi. Not that Abu Dhabi is a historically fertile ground for NBA basketball, but they've played quite a few games there, and people were hanging out of the rafters there, and then set a record.
To play quite a few games there.
They will, and then a record here in London. So just the atmosphere in the arena has been absolutely spectacular, and the fans are knowledgeable. I guess maybe I shouldn't have underestimated the British fans. The fans are really, really knowledgeable about the game.
More knowledgeable than we are about soccer?
Probably proper football. Tottenham won 2-0, by the way. So
No
that
one's
was
no one's all that concerned, but
That's a
it's
high
good to know.
scoring soccer game. But no, the take, other than all your, like, the big takeaway from this London trip, other than your atmosphere observations and whatever you did on the golf course, and you hobnobbing and drinking tea with your pinky out while watching guys kick a ball around. The takeaway is 39-year-old LeBron James is still the unquestioned man for Team USA. Like, it's not close, no conversation. Now, you would prefer them not to be in these tight situations against South Sudan, a team that didn't exist until how many years ago? Like, very recently. Or even against,
2011. Yeah.
there you go. Or even against Germany, with all due respect to the reigning World Cup champions. I mean, you'd like a team full of NBA All-Stars not to have to sweat these finishes out, but game on the line, it is LeBron save us at 39 years old, and he came through twice.
Yeah, I mean that was what stood out to me too, watching the games. It's like, we've talked a lot about this next generation of American players, and they're all really good players. But I mean, this guy is not one of the handful of best players on the planet right now. Like the top 3 or 4 guys probably at 39, but certainly when the games got down to the closing minutes, there was little doubt about what they were going to do, which was give the ball to LeBron and let him figure it out. Because he is, as you said, unquestionably the guy on the team. There's not even a close second. And that was the stunning thing watching it. And obviously he's still awesome, but just to see him at this age still be the guy on a team like this where there are plenty of options, plenty of different guys you could in theory go to. And he made sure they won the Sudan game, made sure they won this game against Germany, took over in the final few minutes, scored several baskets in a row, put the game away. And, again, it was like, yeah, LeBron's going to take over now and win the game. And it's easy to forget how bizarre that is, because the guy is the oldest player in the NBA right now and is approaching his 40th birthday because he has done this for so long. But it just was really something else to just watch him at 39 completely dominate the end of these games. And as MacMahon perfectly said, be the guy that's the unquestioned alpha on this super team.
So the hotel I'm staying at in London is where some of the teams have been staying. South Sudan stayed here. Germany stayed here. Had a chance to talk to quite a few of the folks. The South Sudan team is familiar. I know that they are, you hear South Sudan, you're like, man, that's a new country. Like, where'd they come from? There's a bunch of guys on the team that, Wenyen Gabriel played in college with Bam Adebayo, played obviously with Anthony Davis and LeBron on the Lakers. Carlick Jones was your G League Player of the Year 2 years ago. I ran into Wenyen and Carlick after the game, and Wenyen produced the clip from Skip Bayless's show where in 1.5 seconds. No, well, I don't know, whatever. I'm not getting into that, but Skip always treated me well. Paul Pierce always treated me well, but Paul and Skip kind of were mocking how competitive they would be. And so that was definitely played as part of their thing. And I talked to, Germany's head coach, Gordy Herbert, who's an excellent coach. And, talked to, Brian Gorgine, the coach of Australia, who is American. And, they all say this is like the best team they've ever had to go up against. But yet they're competitive with them. The Australians lost by 6,
Yeah.
South Sudan lost by 1, and the Germans lost by 4. Now you can say, well, what's going on with Team USA? And I'm telling you, okay, they're not playing perfect, and I'll talk about what's going on with them in a second. This is the way the Olympics are going to be.
Yeah, you arrogant American Bontemps.
This is the way the Olympics are going to be. The Olympics are going to have close games, and Team USA can play better. Germany is a great team. They're big. They share the ball. They play within a system. They have very active hands defensively. They
And,
crash the offensive glass. They're really, really focused on team chemistry and team bonding, as we've talked about. MacMahon, Maxi Kleba isn't on this team.
well, and that's I was going to say they have this great size, and neither is Hartenstein.
That's right.
I mean, they've got two quality rotation bigs. I mean, Maxi's more power forward than center, but whatever. Two quality rotation bigs who aren't part of this team. And, the reason Maxi isn't part of it is he didn't play in Eurobasket when Germany was the host country. And he was, he's obviously dealt with a lot of injuries in his career. He was coming off an injury-riddled season during contract extension discussions, and the decision was made with, the Mavericks input, I would say, for him not to play in that, with his full intention to go back to the national team the next year. And, Dennis Schroeder very publicly basically said, "You weren't here last year. We don't want you this year." And funny is probably not the right word, but there's some irony to that, because Maxi is like the ultimate no maintenance teammate type of guy. But I guess, the feeling from Schroeder, and Schroeder is the leader of that team. Franz Wagner is the best NBA player. Schroeder is the best FIBA player, I think is fair to say.
I mean, when he was at the foul line tonight, the German fans were chanting MVP, and it wasn't ironic. He is, in fact, the MVP. He's the MVP of the World Cup.
Exactly. But Schroeder basically was saying, hey, we are going to be about continuity. If you weren't here for Eurobasket, you're not coming for World Cup, and you're not playing in the Olympics.
Right. So that's Germany played really well. So let me just really quickly go over what I think happened in the South Sudan game. Team USA played really, really well against Serbia last week. I still am suspicious whether there was not some rope-a-doping going on there. Serbia kind of played that game oddly.
Mm-hmm.
But the USA played great in that game. They just looked great. Blew them off the court, really held Jokic down. And I think they got here to London. It was Saturday night. Traffic in London has been absolutely brutal right now, not just because it's summer here, but also there some events. I won't bore you with what's going on, and some road closures. And so South Sudan got on the bus to try to go to shoot around, and they gave up halfway there and found another gym in the middle of the city. So Team USA didn't shoot around at the building. Almost none of these guys have ever played in this building before. Jason Tatum, Bam Adebayo, and I think Drew Holiday were in the bus, and they got so frustrated by the traffic that they just got out and got on the subway, the tube here. I'm staying like about 2 miles, maybe even less than from O2 Arena, and there's no way to get there in a car right now. You have to take the tube to go under the water. So I think Team USA was just kind of late getting there, and hadn't done their prep, and the crowd was super into it, and the pregame turned into a dunk contest, and they were just not focused. And by the way, South Sudan didn't shoot around either, so I'm not saying it's just an excuse.
This sounds like a lot of American excuse making.
Well, anyway, they started the game shooting 1 for 13 on threes, and South Sudan started the game shooting 7 of 14. So we know this in any level of basketball. You're down 7-1 in threes, you're in trouble, and they were. The other thing is South Sudan really, especially Carlik Jones, who had a triple-double in that game. I came up to him after the game and I said, are you a free agent? Because I just can't believe he's I thought he was one of the best players in the World Cup last year. I named him to my All-World Cup team, and he got cut by the Bulls. He was G League Player of the Year, was awesome in the World Cup, and got cut by the Bulls in a luxury tax situation. And he ended up playing in China. I said, "Are you a free agent?" And I'd missed the news. He signed with Partizan in Belgrade, so he's not. But I was like, man, you could help some NBA teams. I really do mean that.
Well, he's out. I mean, he's going to be starting on a EuroLeague team. It's not like he's in a rough
I
situation.
understand. Carlik Jones. I call him Carlik. Sorry, Carlik Jones. Anyway,
Right.
He was breaking Team USA down off the dribble, and the defense was collapsing, and they were kicking out to wide open 3-point shooters. In the second half, they basically put Derek White in the game. By the way, Derek White, hoping against hope he doesn't get hit in the mouth again. He has not gotten his teeth fixed. He's got some bond. Well, he's got like bonding on them to like hold them in place. Um, he's just like 6 games. I have to get through 6 games. Please don't hit me in the face. So that he can get it. He's like, I was going to get it done, but stuff happened. I was like, yeah, you partied and then you signed a $125 million
Exactly.
contract.
And then he hopped on a plane to go to London and off to
Right.
France.
So he started the second half of that game and he played fourth quarter minutes in that game. I don't think he actually finished the game, but played fourth quarter minutes because Halliburton was having issues staying in front of his man. And so Team USA was a better team in the second half, but because you get down by 15 points, you get in trouble. And I think that's what happened in that game.
Oh no, hold on. The one thing I want to give South Sudan full credit here, because it's not like Team USA snapped out of it and then okay, they
right.
chased him down. They ended the third quarter with a big run. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me.
21-5.
And so they take the lead there, and you're thinking, okay, that was a great half for South Sudan. This 43.5-point underdog.
That's a laughable line. And also, I'm going to tell you, I already saw the line for Sunday. Serbia is 16.5. US laying 16.5. I'm not going to ever tell anybody how to bet, but Serbia is not 16 points worse than the US. That's all I'm going to say.
My point being, Team USA storms back from this, double-figure halftime deficit, takes the lead, and you're thinking, all right, that was fun. It'll be, they'll coast in the fourth quarter and end up winning this thing by double figures. It literally went down to the last split seconds. Carlik Jones missed. I mean, it was not an easy floater, but it was a 6
makeable shot. It's a makeable shot.
No, Jones shot from like maybe about 17, 18 feet. It was Wenyen Gabriel who had like kind of.
But then they had a putback opportunity. And boy, if the refs wanted to blow the whistle on that one, I think
they definitely could have called a foul. Yeah, for sure.
Well, maybe it was closer. I don't know. I didn't really have good perspective from where I saw it. We didn't have replays. I was joking. My little joke to the South Sudan guys was, I can't wait to see the 2-minute report. They didn't think it was funny. I saw
he got a wide open. He got around Drew Holiday and got a clean look and just missed it. You could have called a foul. You could have called a foul in the offensive rebound.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, look.
Even with LeBron's like clutch heroics, Team USA could not put those pesky little underdogs away.
That's true.
I mean, look. No current NBA players, I believe. Is that correct? Gabriel's not on now.
No, Wenyen signed with Maccabi Tel Aviv.
And JT Thor's not on a roster right now.
Charlotte released him. They didn't pick up his option.
Carlik Jones is not on an NBA roster right now. And then I'm blanking on the guy who had the great shooting game, who played a handful of games.
Mariel Shylock, who used to play for the
Sixers draft pick, among others.
He played in China this last year.
Mm-hmm. So a team that has 0 current NBA players.
That's correct.
Took them down to the wire.
That's correct. Yeah.
True. I mean, look, that game, they played great, and it went the way exactly one of these one-off games can go, where they shot the lights out, got a lead, and like you said, got the game that allowed the game to be close in the fourth quarter. And if you're got a one-possession game in the final few minutes of a game, a lot of crazy stuff can happen, and crazy stuff almost did. I mean, to me, the most interesting thing from these two games is in the South Sudan game, they're 7 for 28 from 3. South Sudan is 14 for 33. In the game today against Germany, they're 6 for 17 from 3. Not a great percentage, not a lot of attempts. And Germany is 13 for 45 from 3.
It's especially interesting given that, the way the NBA has gone. It is such a, pace and space, like 45 attempts in the NBA is not a unusual number anymore. I would imagine.
Well, remember, this is a 48-minute game.
Well, it's a 40-minute game instead of 48. But the more interesting part than the attempts is Germany shot 60% of its shots or more from 3, and the U.S. shot 25% of its shots from 3. If you're the heavy favorite in these games, the way to lose the games is to lose the math.
Yeah,
and Germany is a very good team that's very well coached and is used to playing in FIBA. They played the math much better than the Americans did. Had more shot attempts in general, shot a million more threes, made a lot more threes. Like that's
Yeah.
the formula for how this team is going to lose if it is. And if you're going to have LeBron James, who doesn't shoot a lot of threes, playing a lot, they're going to have, no, he made a big one late, obviously, but, he took 2 in the game. Steph went 1 for 7. The rest of the team combined to shoot 10 threes. Anthony Davis not shooting. Bam Adebayo obviously hit a couple in, I think, the Serbia game, but he's not a big volume 3-point shooter. Joel Embiid can hit threes, not a volume 3-point shooter. Devin Booker likes to shoot in the mid-range. Like, they got a lot of guys who, in general, are more comfortable being in the mid-range than they are from 3. And by the way, whenever Kevin Durant plays, and I don't know if you would say this, Brian, it certainly looked to me the way they started today, that whenever Durant is healthy and able to play, Devin Booker will eventually leave the starting lineup and Kevin Durant will go in, and that will be the 5. Maybe you disagree with that.
Are we certain that's a win?
We'll talk about Durant here in a second.
But the point I was going to say was Kevin Durant is also not a guy that shoots a ton of threes. He's always been a guy that people have said, well, could you maybe shoot some more threes?
Yeah,
Kevin,
shoot more in general. I would say shoot more in general, Kevin.
So that is to me a very interesting thing to watch going forward is, can they equate that math a little bit better? Because if they're losing 3-point attempts by that much on a consistent basis against these good teams, they are going to find themselves potentially in some trouble.
Yeah. So one thing that they did do a much better job of against Germany was containing dribble penetration. And they just played much better defense. Germany only shot 36%. Dennis Schroeder was 3 of 15. He could not get free. And even though Germany took a lot of threes, and they certainly generated some very good looks where the ball went inside out, there were a lot of possessions where Germany had nothing offensively because Team USA was working its tail off.
But they had 14 offensive rebounds.
That's right.
They were plus 13 in shot attempts total, and they were plus 28 in 3-point attempts and plus 21 in 3-point in terms of points generated from behind the 3-point line. Like that is how you're going to lose games in this tournament.
Yeah, the way the shot attempts went that way was that they had 14 offensive rebounds and 7. Team USA had 7 more turnovers. There was a stretch in the third quarter. Jason Tatum, not a stellar performance for Jason Tatum in this game. In fact, Tatum has been sort of not much of a factor, but Tatum had 3 turnovers. And Ann Edwards had 3 turnovers. And that second unit, which was really good at the start of this process, was not so good. Steve Kerr seems to be dedicated to the hockey subs where he puts 5 guys in at once. I get it. And, it had some success even in the first quarter of this game, but I don't know. It's kind of a shock to the system. I don't know. The second unit isn't playing as well as it did earlier, so we'll see about that. But they did play much better defense in this game. They did lose the math game, though. That's for sure.
Do we think Derek White has completely supplanted Haliburton, by the way, on the second unit?
That's for the time being, yes. Derek White was with the second unit, and Haliburton didn't play in this game. So for the time being,
Haliburton's in the JaVale McGee role.
I don't think he would term it as that. But yeah, we'll see. There's still a long time to go. But yeah, Derek White is coming. And look, there's a reason that they picked Derek White is because that he can defend the guard position. And they did a great job on Schroeder. They did a great job on Jokic the other night, and they did a great job on Schroeder. Those are 2 guys who are MVP.
SGA going back to Vegas.
Yes. So, they do have a lot going.
Jamal Murray didn't get anything going in that game.
They have a lot going for them. I know that these games are closer than people may expect, but the one thing I will say that Germany did, and their coach after the game mentioned this, and I think you will see this starting right with Serbia out of the gate on Sunday. They slowed the game down. They want Team USA to play in the half court, and their half court offense just isn't that good. They do occasionally run a nice play. They have some actions to create some back cuts. They don't have much of an offensive system. The ball tends to stick a little bit when they're in the half court. Ant Edwards, especially. Now, Ant has been great offensively. This was really his first subpar offensive game. But he doesn't pass a lot. He's holding on to that ball.
If you don't believe me, just ask him.
I know. So they need to clean that up as well. But it's going to be a real challenging tournament. And they, 2 teams that they got to play in the pool play have already gotten a shot at them. Serbia's got to look at them, and South Sudan's got to look at them. And I know people may say, well, why are you playing teams in the run-up games that you're going to play in your pool play? Well, first off, when you schedule these games, there's only 8 teams that you know are going to be in the Olympics.
Right.
The other 4 are decided in earlier July, and one of them is you. So that means you got 7 teams that you can schedule. And the U.S. played 5 games. They wanted to play a bunch of games. Other teams didn't. Germany only played a couple. Because USA wanted to play 5 games to try to get some rhythm because they had none. So, they will, they will have some tough roads in Paris and Lille where they start on Sunday. All right, now to Durant. So Kevin Durant himself said that he was hoping to play in Abu Dhabi, which is now, around 2 weeks ago. Didn't play there. When the U.S. got here to London, their first day here, Durant came and spoke to the media. Practice, Steve Kerr said, I'm really looking forward to getting him hopefully in one of these 2 games. We knew he was never going to play the South Sudan game. It looked like he was on track to play tonight. Worked out over the weekend, etc. Steve Kerr met with Kevin Durant before the game, and they decided he wasn't going to play and that he's going to try to put together some practices and then a scrimmage before he is going to play. To me, they're traveling over to Paris in the middle of the week, and they've got some obligations in Paris, including the opening ceremony. I'm not sure that's going to happen. And so while I wouldn't rule it out, I think that answer sounded like Durant's not going to be ready to start. I could be wrong, but I asked Kevin when he came back to practice if his calf injury, if how he's dealt with his calf injury, with what happened in 2019, if that was on his mind, if that affected how he did it. And he just said no right away, no, and moved on. He did not like the question.
Yeah, I mean, I get not liking it, and you have to ask the question. I would also say, how could it not?
Well, who was his coach back then?
Yep.
Steve Kerr was his coach. I'm sure the Suns are, the Suns have had personnel with Team USA. I'm sure the Suns are keeping a very close eye on this. I'm sure Kevin is. And he's older now. He's 5 years older. So, look, I'm just telling you, he said no. I'm not saying that it is. And this is the other leg, by the way. This is the right calf. That was the left leg. But I certainly, if I was Steve Kerr, would be super ultra careful with Kevin. And, I'm sure Kevin is frustrated. He hates sitting out. He's watching this team have a lot of fun, and their camaraderie does seem to be pretty good. Bontemps, I know that there's this question out there that people are asking is if Durant is out and out and out and out and not playing. By the way, Steve Kerr announced after the game tonight, we're not replacing Kevin Durant on the roster. He will be on the roster no matter what. They're going to set their roster, I think, on Saturday. Durant's going to be on it. People are asking the question, well, why did Kawhi, who was practicing, actually practiced 4 times, I think 3 or 4 times, why was he sent home? And Durant, who hasn't practiced at all, was kept here, if there's some doubt. And the Kawhi thing is, there's a missing piece of information there, I feel like, because Lawrence Frank from the Clippers has come out and said, we want him to play. I don't have a good answer for that, other than the fact that I think it was Team USA's evaluation that Durant was closer, and there's their evaluation.
Well, I mean, you're also leaving out the fairly obvious thing, which is Kevin Durant has as much equity as anyone's ever had in the Team USA program, and Kawhi Leonard's never played. So
That's right.
If Kevin Durant wants to play, they're probably going to let Kevin Durant try to play. And there's I'm not saying it's the fair thing to do or the right thing to do or whatever, but that's how this stuff works. And the human element is always involved in this. And, look, I'm sure some of it was, they acted at the time like Kevin was close to playing. Maybe this has lingered longer than you would think. I'm not trying to treat this like it's some nefarious thing. I don't think it is, but Kevin Durant has won 3 gold medals. He's trying to become the first male basketball player to ever win 4 gold medals. Like, it's a big deal. So they're gonna give him every chance to play, and they've got until Sunday to fully decide whether he's gonna or not. I assume he's still going to be on the team, but we'll see what happens over the next week, I guess.
Well, and
you
Durant's
know.
also the all-time leading scorer in Team USA history by almost
Right.
100 points. I mean,
Right.
by a
Yeah.
lot. Ooh,
He's played all these games. He's played all these Olympics in a row. He's got all this equity with the program. So, yeah, they're going to give him every opportunity to play. He's got equity with the coach. Played for the coach.
Right.
Like,
I also think they thought this injury. I don't think they believe this injury is going to last this long. I mean,
I got a whiz of the quiz.
I mean,
I got a whiz of the
yeah.
quiz. I just looked something up. I want to use it.
What do you got?
And now, to present today's trivia question, the whiz of the quiz.
Who are the top 5 all-time leading men's basketball scorers in Olympics history?
for Team
Across
USA or
all
for
teams?
No. All teams. There's no Americans on this list. KD.
Oh, well, Oscar Schmidt's number 1.
Yeah.
Oscar Schmidt's number 1.
Sabonis?
Sabonis not on there.
Ricky Rubio.
Not on there. There is a Spaniard on there.
Pau?
Pau Gasol.
Pau's 3rd.
Trying to think of guys who've played in a bunch of Olympics.
Manu Ginobili.
Ginobili is on there. 5th.
Who coach?
Nope.
So what do we got? We got 1 spot left?
2 spots, an Australian and another Argentinian. Is it
Patty
Argentinian?
Mills.
Nope.
I would assume it's Scola.
Scola, 4th. I'll
Yeah.
give you the Australian.
He played a gazillion games.
Yes.
Oh, I'm Andrew Gaze.
Andrew Gaze. There you go.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Gazy. Seton
That's
Hall
right,
legend.
Gazy.
Did Gaze ever
Gaze.
play in the NBA?
I think he had a brief cup of coffee after Seton Hall. Played for our guy, PJ Carlesimo, Seton Hall.
No, I know Oscar Schmidt never did. He also owns the record for the most points in an NBA game at 55.
He was on the
Luka's-
1999
Luka was second.
Spurs.
Mhm.
Won a
Luka-
title with the Spurs.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Luka, I think, had the second. You said NBA record, but Oscar Schmidt has the Olympic record for 55 points.
Yeah,
And
55.
I think Luka is second with like 48.
Tied for second with 48 with the feller named Ed Palubinskis from Australia.
All right. Well, yeah. So, look, I know it's been frustrating for Kevin. It's been frustrating for Team USA, but they're sticking with him. And you're going to hear me say this repeatedly, whether it's on the pod or it's going to be on TV or whatever. They don't have to be great. They don't have to be at their best on July 28th, which is Sunday. They have to be honed in on August 6th. That's the round of 8.
Yeah, we're
So-
just at the quarterfinals.
Yeah. All right.
And I
beyond-
do think the games, I do just think one final thing. We should point out these are exhibition games. It feels like they are treating them like exhibition games to some degree. And I think the way they played against Canada and the way they played against Serbia and the way they played for a large stretch of the game against Australia, when I believe they were up by 25 in that game. I am curious to see if they play with a different edge starting on the 28th when they play Serbia in actual Olympic competition games. I'll be curious to see if they look a little different than they have in the exhibitions.
By the way, France won their first exhibition game against Germany about 2 weeks ago, and then lost their next 4 games.
Oh.
They come in on a 4-game losing streak.
They also did not have a great World Cup. Now, Wemby was not at the World Cup, but still.
Well,
Also-
their guards are a real problem, like we've talked about. And that in international play, weak guard play is a big problem.
Also, Serbia blasted Greece on Monday, and Bogdan Bogdanovic, who didn't play against the U.S., had 5 of 5 on threes and 19 points, and Jokic had 16, 8, and 6 assists. Giannis
Yeah,
had,
Greece is not that good. Obviously, outside of Giannis, who is quite good.
yes. Well, Greece's point
Just-
guard is
Look at here.
Greece's
Well,
point guard is
just making it clear that I'm aware Giannis is on the team. but
Greece's point guard, Nick Kalathis, who's approaching 40. He didn't play in that game, it must be said. Also,
Nick Cates had a brief NBA career and has been over there in Greece for a long, long time. Actually, high school teammates with Chandler Parsons.
he's had a fantastic career.
college teammates, didn't they both go to Florida?
Did he
Yes.
go to Florida? No, I know they're also
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, Dallas Mavericks news for you there, MacMahon. We'll see if you're on top of this. Dante Exum dislocated his finger and might miss the World Cup or the Olympics. So, but Australia had a bunch of nice wins after they played Team USA. So keep that in mind. All right, before we go, we did have a major signing that became official on Monday. Evan Mobley signed a 5-year max contract extension with the Cavs.
Cavs Corner.
Cavs Corner. Sponsored by No Player Option.
Big banks. Take it to the bank, Evan Mobley.
Listen, you have to describe this as a potential supermax deal.
Well, that's one of the things that took so long. So from what I understand, the negotiation, no player option, none of the guys who signed the maxes, Cade Cunningham, Franz Wagner, who by the way had 18 points tonight, looked pretty good. Or Scotty Barnes got a 5th-year player option.
Who's the last one to get one of those? Because it had become a trend there for a little bit with Donovan, Mitchell.
I know
Tatum.
Jason Tatum got one. He just got one at Supermax too.
Luka got one.
was
Is he the last one to get one?
I believe. I will check on that, but I believe so.
We'll see if Wemby gets one. That'll be an interesting negotiation in a couple years. All right. From what I understand, the negotiation is if you get, when you sign the max, the fund max, coming off your 3rd year, your 4th year, but 3rd year in this case, you get 25% of the salary cap. If you make an all-NBA team, you can get up to 30% of the salary cap. That's the quote-unquote super max, above the possible max. From what I understand, the negotiation was he will get 27% of the cap if he finishes 3rd team all-NBA, and 30% if he finishes 2nd or 1st team.
Is there any language about defensive player of the year?
I had not heard that.
Because you can also qualify as a defensive
that's a great
player of the
point.
year. And honestly, I think he probably has a better chance to qualify. I don't think he has a good chance to qualify either way. But he might have a better chance to qualify as a defensive player of the year than
I have the answer, thanks to Bobby Marks. 30% if he makes defensive player of the year or MVP.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Not too concerned about the latter there.
Famous last words.
Well, if he's MVP, I'm pretty sure he's going to qualify some other way too.
That's a big number for Evan Mobley. I understand why they gave it to him, but he hasn't been playing like a max player. So they're Bontemps, MacMahon.
It just reinforces this.
They're betting on the come.
Ooh. They're also betting that the come won't come too soon. Anyways.
Even
that's not the phrase, buddy.
Even MacMahon tripped on himself on that one.
I was going to say we might get a sponsor with that one. We might get a. I don't know what Bluetooth.
That was not the phrase. That was not the phrase.
Anyways, they're betting that his major improvement will not happen within the next year. I would say, but look.
Well, listen, if he makes 3rd team All NBA, I think they'll happily give him the 27%.
Yeah, I was going to say if he qualifies for the extra money, that's a very good thing for the Cavs, and Dan Gilbert will happily pay the money. Yes, I mean, look,
and this just reinforces what we thought going in the summer. It is Donovan, Mobley, and then you're going to figure out how the other pieces fit, or if the other pieces fit.
Yeah, some people in Cleveland were trying to say that I should apologize for prior takes on Evan Mobley, I think, in the wake of him signing this extension. First of all, congrats to Evan Mobley on signing this extension. It is great. Second of all, everything I've said about him still stands. If the Cavs want to be a championship contending team, he has to become their best player. That's the whole thing.
I would take 2nd best player because he ain't the
No,
second
but
best player.
well, sure, but the
Who's their
whole
second best player right now?
Jared Allen had the second best season this year.
the MVP of the league, Jared Allen.
Well,
I mean, there were
sure.
moments when Evan Mobley looked like that, but Jared Allen was the
Right.
second best player.
Well, I would say
Evan
one
Mobley-
of those moments was the playoffs when he was on the
Oh,
floor playing well, and Allen was not.
Well, that's true. You
Yeah, I
gonna get
mean,
mad
listen.
for a guy who's injured?
They need him to
Jared Allen's
become
playoff history is
I know. I'm just.
brief
I know.
and not
His-
great.
his playoff history is either not playing or playing very badly. I mean, look, they need Evan Mobley to become a superstar for them to become a championship caliber team. If Donovan Mitchell is their best player, they're probably going to be what they were this year, which is a team that's a borderline second round team. Obviously, they had a tough series with Orlando. They get out of that series, they get in the second round. They were very banged up against Boston. I think they could have maybe gotten another game in that series if they were healthy. But that's sort of who they are. If Donovan Mitchell is your best player, if you have a 6'1" guard as your best player, Donovan Mitchell's awesome. You just have a ceiling on what your team can really be. Whereas if Evan Mobley becomes Chris Bosh and is a 6'11" power forward who's hitting threes and scoring 25 a game and doing all the things that he has the physical capabilities to do, then if Donovan Mitchell's your second best player with him, that's a duo that can be a conference finals team. That could be an NBA finals team. That could
What
be
position-
in true.
What position did Bosch play when he was winning championships?
Center.
Oh,
He
that's
played,
interesting.
he played power forward and center. I think to me, look, you want to say Evan Mobley needs to play center full time. That's fine. I don't think he's big enough to really do that. What he needs to do is become a truly dynamic offensive player. He needs to be a guy that can score 25 a game, which I think he has the capability to do, but that's a big gap from where he's been, which is a guy who's been a 15, 16 point a game player who showed some slight improvement as a 3-point shooter this year. I know his percentage went up a lot, but he barely took any.
He took fewer.
I just meant he barely took any at all. I think he
Right.
took 59 across the entire season. I think he went 22 for 59. So again, like he needs to be a guy that is a reliable 3-point shooter, is a guy, and like he can do all these things. I think one of the, the irony of people celebrating this extension is that when the Cavaliers hired Kenny Atkinson, what was the biggest thing Kenny Atkinson talked about at his press conference? Developing Evan Mobley, right? It's about developing Evan Mobley as an offensive player, getting him the ball in more situations. I think the biggest criticism you could have of JB Bickerstaff as a coach was that they didn't really do anything very creative offensively, and particularly with Evan Mobley. It was a lot of just, they didn't do it. You could potentially run some 4-5 pick and rolls with Evan Mobley handling the ball. They never did that. There was never really any development of Evan Mobley as a shooter. There was not really ways to sort of force him to be a more dynamic offensive player. And to me, the whole thing with Kenny Atkinson is you're betting on a guy who has a track record as one of the best developmental coaches in the league to come in and turn this guy into a big-time offensive player to go with what already is an excellent production and ability at the defensive end of the court. And if that happens, then he got a chance to be an all-NBA player and the guy they need him to be a championship caliber team.
I got an idea of how to turn him into a big-time offensive player. You put him on the floor with Donovan Mitchell and 3 shooters, and you run a whole bunch of pick and roll with him catching lobs
That's not
operating
good.
out of the short roll.
That's not going to be good enough. It's not going to be good enough for him to if he's just a role center, Tim. Like I understand what you're saying. For the guy he is right now, he could score more points that way. But that's not going to be good enough for them to win a title, though. I don't think
in the modern NBA, a role center is also a playmaking role center can be a big time offensive player,
but not to the degree they need him to be. Like
Well,
he's got to be. At least in my opinion, he's got to become a 3-level offensive player and the best player on the team for them to have it. And look, the market.
in my opinion,
I don't think he's got to be the best player. They've got a Hall of Famer probably in Donovan Mitchell. He doesn't have to become their best player.
But Donovan Mitchell's not good enough to be the best player on a championship winning team. He's not. He's an awesome player.
This is like for this podcast to become like just a worldwide sensation, we need you to become handsome and intelligent. Well, I
mean,
mean, at a certain point, like, dude, you got to operate within the
well,
reasonable
but
abilities.
well, hold on. Well, hold on. They just gave him a full max deal, right? Like they're
A
betting
full
on
fun
him.
max.
It's still a full max deal. They believe he could become a superstar player. Am I correct, Brian?
Look,
I mean, in the modern day and age with the aprons, if you give a guy a max contract, you're basically saying you can't give a guy a max contract to be your third best player. That's just reality.
Okay, but like, are you telling me the Magic believe Franz Wagner is going to be a superstar?
Well, that contract is debatable as well.
Well, look, I think Evan Mobley has a super high ceiling. The issue to this point is it's not really been actualized, particularly on the offensive end of the court. And look, yes, if you have him play as center, and like he had 33 points in game 5 against the Celtics, like he could put up big numbers playing as the only big on the court with a bunch of shooting around him. I totally agree with that. But I don't think that's the path to getting him to where he needs to be for them to become the kind of team that if he gets to this level and he is a first or second team All-NBA player, like they could be a team that threatens to win the East. But I just don't think that's going to happen if he's playing as a role big, which is why, to me, the number one thing Kenny Atkinson should be doing for the next, 8 or 9 months till the playoffs start is giving Evan Mobley every opportunity to eat as much as he can on offense and try to grow his game and make him take big steps at that end of the court. Like, because that is what could separate this team, especially because if he does that stuff, then you can play him with Jared Allen, who is really good and can be the role guy. And you can have Evan Mobley both do some rolling stuff and be able to space the floor effectively and shoot threes and be able to handle the ball and run 4 or 5 pick and rolls and do stuff with him. And like he could do all the stuff he has the potential to do. Whereas otherwise, if he's just a role big, then like I just think it caps their ceiling on what they can be. And I think by giving him this contract, like you're clearly betting on him having the ability to do that. So, I mean, maybe he only becomes a role big and that's really what his ultimate outcome is, but I'd be doing everything I can over the next year to try to have him show he could become an all-star, all-NBA type big in the league on the offensive end of the court.
All right, well, we'll be paying attention to that. There's a couple other guys in the 2021 draft class who I think will be in some pretty serious talks for extensions. I'm not sure if there's any more maxes out there. I don't know. Maybe Trey Murphy's hoping for one, but Trey Murphy, Alpi Şengün from the Rockets. I got to suspect that the Bulls are going to want to extend Josh Giddey now that they've made a big trade for him.
Given the way they negotiate,
Jalen Suggs in
Suggs.
Orlando's awful interesting. Jonathan Kuminga and
I was
Golden
going to
State
say
is awfully
Jonathan
interesting.
Kuminga is very interesting, and the fact he is extension eligible, I think, makes it a lot less tempting for a team like I don't know, the rebuilding Utah Jazz to want him back in a trade.
Yeah, I mean Jalen Johnson in Atlanta is an interesting extension guy. I'm sure Trey Murphy would love to hear you say he might be hoping for a max. I love Trey Murphy. Trey Murphy should not be getting a max
Whatever
extension.
And another error I could have seen him do it. I don't see it, not right now with that team. By the way, Bobby Marks was mentioning to me that, you know what? I'm not even going to say that. I'm not going to open up that can of worms. Something interesting that I saw, but we'll save it for later.
Something interesting that I'm not willing to share.
It's not a big deal. Sorry. It's almost 3 a.m. here in London. I almost said Paris.
There it is.
Which means we're going to wrap right here. By the way, I've had several people say that they want to get in on the bet.
The Spurs bet?
The Spurs bet has touched a nerve.
I'll tell you what. If I win the bet,
so what side do they want to get in on?
Both sides. No, that's the thing. There are people. Okay. Well, let me just say, I've had maybe 4 or 5 people bring it up to me. I think all but one said they wanted McMahon's. They want to be on McMahon's team, but there was one.
Fun. It's a lot more fun to bet on the McMahon side. I'll be the first to say that. I mean, if Victor turns into a top 5 player this year and they're winning 45 games, that'll be fun.
There was a German guy who maybe doesn't like the French for various reasons, and he was on Bontemps' side. Bontemps is aligned with the Germans.
Oh yeah, the USWB aligned with the Germans. That's a shocker.
So I'm just saying, like that. I mean, you could like.
I think the line is very well set at 35.5. I think that's a very good line, and I suspect that's going to go right down to the final couple weeks of the season.
Wendy, during the 90 seconds that you'll get with Victor during this trip to France, as you always do, I want you to make sure he knows there's a lot riding on this thing.
I know Victor will be betting well, he's not allowed to bet, but I know Victor would be on, if he could, he would be on your side of the ledger. So
Chris Paul too.
No doubt.
Fella.
No doubt. All right. Thank you to Jackson, our producer. Thanks for all of our fans in Europe watching us on YouTube, listening to us on the various platforms. MacMahon's coming over to Europe later this year. Like, you should.
I am?
Did I say MacMahon? It's
Bontemps.
very late. I don't know if you heard.
I was like, listen, if you want to,
in case you don't remember,
if you want to send me, come on.
In a while.
I'm open for invitations. All expenses paid for sure.
You've hung out in Europe. I think last year you came to Europe twice.
A couple years ago.
All right. Well, whatever. Trips. All right. Anyway, Bontemps will be in Europe soon. So
I will be.
Means we won't have him on the pod. So.
Ooh, wow. There must have been some negotiations with K-Bon there.
I don't know if that's. I mean, I don't think that was the plan, but.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't want to upset your wife.
It's not upset. We'll make it work.
All right. Well, look forward to it. Thank you for listening and watching. We'll talk to you soon.
Adios, amigos.